Hello and welcome. I am Raziel, and today we're going to talk about the spires for conquest. Well, the spires are kind of just big buildings which are pretty much populated by the exiles. So let's just get something straight. Conquest is this fantasy game made by Parabellum Games. It's fantastic. You have 100 kingdoms and the Old Dominion, and the Radrun, etc., etc., etc. You have lots of orcs, which have a Radrun, and dwarves, which I always forget what they're called. Oh, I should really get into more dwarf lore. I don't know. Dwarves don't interest me that much. Anyway, so you have this nice fantasy. You've got humans, orcs, elves, dwarves, and well, elves kind of. Well, you have samurai, then you. But seeing as this, we love fantasy. Fantasy's great. It's mystical, magical. So let's talk about aliens instead, from outer space, and that they could fly massive spaceships and stuff like that. Yes, I'm still talking about Conquest. It's still a fantasy game, and we're still going to talk about aliens, and that is the Spires. Well, like I said, the Spires are technically just massive buildings which scattered along and around here, or I don't know. It's EA. Challenge everything, and so this is the thing. The Spires are, like I said, populated by the exiles. And see, the exiles were from some place, and no one quite knows where. They do come from outside space, and that's about it. So they were refugees onto Ear, and they first came with scientists and the people who could produce stuff, grow stuff, and the things to lay the land and make sure that anyone else who comes next would be more comfortable. And the ones that came next weren't the average person or the average exile. People who would actually help with production and could be traders, etc., etc., etc. New. What came next was the nobles, and that's when things kind of went wrong because now. And here's the thing. This is the coolest thing about it. You've got these nobles. They own land. They own, countless bits and pieces and stuff like that. But the Directorate, they make everything. They use biomancy. They use odd sciences to create everything. And like any good science in a fantasy stroke sci-fi setting, they kind of have, they have brains, they're intelligent, they know what they want to do, but they always tend to lack that thing that's important. What's it called again? Ethics. They lack ethics. They do not care. They are absolutely just bad at it, right? And because, of course, the exiles no longer have any sort of average person to do their basic work, soldiers, etc., the Directorate started making clones, clones of the noblemen. And this is what makes up the average exile. It's a clone. And also, it's clones of places they conquer as well, the territories, etc., and stuff like that. And that's the thing. When they take over land, this is what I always find really, really dark about the exiles and the Spires, is when they take over the land, they will sign a peace treaty. The people may go, oh, okay, we give up, we surrender, and they go, okay, and then they will clone everyone they just taken over, and then kill them. Not the clones, the people they've taken over. Just literally will massacre them out completely and have these completely loyal clones. And then to feed the clones, they will literally feed the people they just massacred to the clones as biomass. Like I said, there's no ethics, and there's those that just say, I don't think there's even a word for the word ethics within the exile language. I don't think there's anything to do. It's like, ethics? No. They probably have 100 different versions of let's do this, or yes, because we can, but as for the word ethics, no, they do not have this. So the Directorate and the nobles kind of had this nice balance. The Directorate would, be in control of the lands where the nobles owned. This was a nice trade sort of thing going in between. And that was kind of working really well for them. Because the Directorate, had everything that the nobles wanted, and the nobles had all the money and the land, which the Directorate controlled. Yeah, it's like CEO being told what to do by his underlings. Like, they own everything, but it's the people underneath who do the work and therefore control everything and can pretty much tell those up above where to stick it. To the point where that they would just do that. They would say no. And the directorate could be controlled with money for pet projects, like whether or not you could make a cat dog or flying rat, whatever. Like, they didn't care. They would say, right, you support us and we'll give you all this money to do whatever you want. And when you give lots of money to people with a serious lack of ethics, to almost negative ethics, it really makes this nice little equilibrium. Because they're not going to bother anyone because they want the money for their bizarre experiments. And then, of course, the nobles don't want to upset the directorate because they will just say, no, we're not helping you with soldiers and people like that. So you got this nice little balance going for quite a while. And then some of the younger nobles, and when you got actual people being born within the Spires, actual exiles, not just clones, they start thinking, do you know what would be a better way to make money? Let's trade with the outside. Let's trade with the 100 Kingdoms. Let's trade with the Old Dominion because we want some mouldy old bones. And we want to deal with spooky skeletons, or, we want some dinosaurs from Varadran, etc. Right? And so this disturbed this economic equilibrium in the Spires, because now different money was coming in, and the directorate didn't have as much power over the nobles because they could now get what they wanted externally and not internally, and the directorate were like going, and they don't know what to do. So now we have this sort of imbalance within the Spires. Now it's the buildings now, not the faction. So when it comes to the directorate and the science stuff, which I think is really interesting, is like like I said, the average trooper is a clone, but you have some of these really big things like the Abomination, and I don't think anything's been so well named since the Terror from Kings of War. And what they do is we can make this with one person. We can make this clone with one person. What happens if we just melt lots of clones together and pour them into a big mold? And that's when you get things like the Abomination. They just literally get loads of clones, melt them down, and make this big thing. The same with every other big creature they have, is literally melted down clones, welded together to make a big monster. So once again, you can see that, ethics doesn't really come into play here. They do not care about the clones. Are not even second class. They're like 26th class, or, bottom of the pile. You see one in the street, you don't walk around them, you walk over them and then back up and you just trample them to death because you can, and that's all they're good for. And that's it. That's like a very badly explained video of the Spires, and that's it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on the Spires. If you wish to save money on your wargaming, don't forget to check out Wayland Games down below. As always, because they're cool, and you're up to 20% off your wargaming and free delivery after free delivery for £20 and 1% off, and 1% off with the points, and it's really cool. You get loads of wargaming stuff there as well. There's loads of Parabellum stuff. There's loads of Conquest stuff there. There's also my merchandise, comics, t-shirts, all that cool stuff. There's Forbidden Planet for comics, DVDs and mangas. There's also, I'm completely forgetting my outro today. Skyforge, never forget Skyforge, good friend of mine. Let's get him up that Google algorithm because he's a great guy and I think he deserves the support. And finally, Patreon, because business. I think that's all of it. Bye bye.